Welcome to the Stewardship Sessions, the podcast where money meets meaning. Here, we talk about building wealth with wisdom, shaping a mindset rooted in purpose, and pursuing a mission guided by faith. I'm your host, Jason Stanley, and together we'll explore intentional living, one conversation at a time.
Last time on the Stewardship Sessions, and so they go through that stage where, well, if I could just get this. And what they're actually hoping is that if they get that, people will notice them and think differently of them. And the reality is, most people aren't thinking about you. You know, they really don't care. They've got their own worries. They're trying to make other people happy, not make you happy. They're trying to do the exact same thing. And so when you unwire that from your brain, and you start looking at the world differently, you start looking at the world as to what can I build versus what can I own, then it becomes a very different ballgame. Now you're talking about stewardship versus ownership. Stewardship is saying that I'm a conduit for whatever it is, for your family. I'm a conduit for a successful family. I'm a conduit for successful finances. And maybe it is that you don't build in your lifetime. Maybe you don't build millions of dollars or big businesses or any of those things. But could you still be disciplined enough to build something and teach your children and grandchildren and the next generations how to build, and then they take and compound what you've already started? The answer is yes. One of the greatest lies that exists in today's society is this idea of retirement. And I know what you're thinking. There's 1,000 videos on how to retire early and retirement and all of this stuff. And that's a really self-centered type of approach. Retirement was born out of a time period when we were basically a manufacturing society. We're not a manufacturing society anymore. Very few people actually work in manufacturing. And so you actually had to retire because there came a point where your body just couldn't keep doing what you were doing. Most of us work in intellectual manufacturing now. Most people have jobs or careers that are more intellectually based than they are physically based. And so as long as your mind is good, you can continue to work and you can continue to build. And so in our practice, when we deal with clients, when we help clients with their assets and their wealth, one of the things that we say is work optional. You know, we get away from this idea of retirement of I've got to accumulate this bucket of money so that I can stop working and just go live, right? And we have that idea. Everybody has these ideas built up. If I win the lottery, I'm going to tell my boss he's a jerk and I'm out of here and I'm just going to go do whatever and go live on a beach. Jordan Peterson gives a great analogy of what most people build up in their mind as the ideal retirement. And he's like, a lot of people have this idea that they're going to go sit on the beach and, just have drinks all day. The reality is, how long can you do that? It's fine to go sit on the beach for a week. You get into a month of sitting on the beach and drinking every day. Now you end up cirrhotic, sunburned, and overweight, and miserable. That's not success. That's not success in any form of the word. And so if you start incorporating the family into what you're doing, now suddenly retirement becomes a non-issue. Because now wealth starts to compound, now wealth starts to generate, and kids can carry on legacies, and you're still involved. You may not have to work every day at it because other family members are doing things. The other misconception that people have whenever it comes to building family wealth is this idea that there's one centralized company or business and all the family works in it. And nothing could be further from the truth. If you look at families that do what I'm talking about, they actually have multiple different ventures. Some of them have regular jobs. Some of them are doctors. Some of them are attorneys. Some of them, work in sales. But what they do is they go do family investments together, and they start building wealth as a family together. And the cool thing is it's just like anything else in life. You're better with a team. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're trying to accomplish something with your family, if you can do it as a family, you can accomplish a lot more than if you're doing it by yourself. It's really an amazing concept, and it's so foreign to most people. And it's something that's not really talked about a whole lot. You'll see videos out there that talk about how, wealthy will set up family trust or family limited partnerships, how they'll have, these life insurance policies that they'll borrow against. And then, when somebody passes, it refills the family trust. And that's how you get this stuff going long term. What I'm going to tell you is that there's not one thing specifically that you do that's going to carry on for generation after generation if you don't teach the basics and you don't practice the basics yourself. All of those ideas are great ideas, and some of them are useful, but you have to understand the basics. And so what we're going to start talking about over the next couple episodes and into the foreseeable future is how you can start to incorporate these things into your life right now where you're at. I don't care what type of job you have. I don't care how much money you make. Maybe you're just starting off in life. Maybe you're midway through and you've got a mound of debt. If you start implementing these things into your life, I can promise you that they will compound and they will change the trajectory of where you're going. Most people look at their life and they say, this is who I am. And I forget who I heard this from, but it's actually very profound. Who you see yourself as right now is not really who you are. I'll say that again. Who you see yourself right now as is not really who you are. It's who you were. It's the residual of decisions that you've made in the past that have compounded to make you the person that you are right now. So if life is good, if you're healthy, if you're financially successful, it's because you've made those decisions in the past to become that, and you can continue to make those decisions into the future. If you're not healthy, right? And I don't mean, something's happened to you that you couldn't control. I've told you I had cancer at one point in time. I didn't do anything to cause it that I know of. Nobody could tell me what kind of life habit would have contributed to that. But when I'm talking about health, I'm talking about more of, are you taking care of your body? Are you doing everything you can to be healthy? If you see somebody who's really in shape, and I'm not saying that you have to have washboard abs or, be the biggest fitness guru, but being healthy, right? If you look at somebody that's accomplished that, they've made it a lifestyle choice, and it's little actions that have compounded over time to make them who they are. And the same thing goes with your family. The same thing goes with your money. It's really a simple concept, but yet most people don't do it because they don't take the time to set the goals. And when you don't have goals, you become emotional. You allow your emotions to drive what happens in your life because everything becomes about how you feel in that moment. I hope this makes sense. So if you think about it, it's so true. How many times do you start something or you do something, you don't have a goal? A lot of people, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. A lot of people start off the beginning of the year. I see them in the gym every single year. We have a gym at our country club, and I frequent that gym. And at the beginning of the year, the place will be packed. It's always frustrating too, and the reason it's frustrating is because they crowd the gym, they get there, they don't know what they're doing. They have no goal. And they're just taking up space. They're doing some exercises, and they'll do that for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 at the most, and then By the end of January, the gym is back to the normal people who show up daily, every day, and do their normal workouts. And the reason that is because most of those people just say, hey, I'm going to lose weight this year. Instead of making the goal, I'm going to become healthy, which is a lifestyle decision. And also, too, because they don't set the goals, they're emotional about it. They go to the gym, they work out diligently for a couple weeks, and they don't see any results. Maybe their diet didn't change. We know you have to change your diet if you really want to get in shape. Maybe they, didn't slow down the alcohol intake. That adds a ton of calories. Or maybe they just didn't see the results they thought they would see in the time that they saw it. So the emotions of them says, well, this doesn't work. So I'm just going to keep living. I don't feel like this is benefiting me. Again, they go back to that feeling state, and our feelings are great. Our emotions are great when you focus them in on a goal. When you get excited about striving for a goal, when you put the emotion behind that, when you take the time to visualize what it would be like to be there, now you're suddenly creating. Now you're suddenly in that creative space. But when you just arbitrarily go out and say, I'm going to do this, and you don't have clear defined goals, you don't have the clear defined reason as to why you're doing what you're doing, and you don't see the benefit right away, you'll shift gears really fast and you'll revert back to the way you were. Because we're comfortable with who we perceive ourselves as being. It's the same story over and over and over again. We see this time and time again. We see it in relationships. People who have been in abusive relationships, a lot of times will go back to abusive relationships. Why? Because it's familiar. They get comfortable there. And while they don't necessarily like it, there's a level of comfort there. They know how to operate in that space. Excuse me. I don't know why I got choked. So start taking the time to write out your goals. This goes back to one of the very first episodes that we did where I said, hey, take the time to write out your goals and write them in a story form. I like doing this every year. I sit down and write out my life vision in a story form. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't change over time. The vision board behind me, I built a long time ago. And I like showing people that because there's some really cool stuff on there that I've been able to accomplish by being able to see those things, focus on them, get excited about them. But there's also a few things on there that have changed over time. There's a picture of a large house. I don't want that anymore. I don't need a gigantic house because I'm not trying to impress anybody anymore. Back then I was more about trying to impress people. If I'm being honest about it, I was more worried about what people thought about me rather than what I thought about my family and building something that I could pass on to my family and teach them the benefit of, the value of, and teach them how to do the same thing. And as a family, we could go build greater things. Doesn't mean that I won't ever have, a larger house. I don't think I will. I don't know that I have a reason to. But again, so things can change, but taking the time to write out that vision allows you to start setting a direction for your life. And I write it in a story form. I am so thankful now that I am, and I have become, and I have accomplished, right? And again, yes, it's a little bit focused, more centric. I would tell you that alignment in God's will is just as important. So I do take the time every day to say, God, these are my desires. This is what I would like to accomplish. If it's not part of your will, that's okay. Again, letting go of the control of it, setting a vision. And, if you haven't figured it out, I am a believer. I believe wholeheartedly in the Bible. And I think the Bible gives some great insights on how to build your life. And consistently throughout the Bible, it talks about casting a vision for what you want your life to be. Consistently throughout the Bible, we're taught how to manage our finances, how to manage our bodies, how to manage our health. I think it was Paul who says, "I buffet my body and I make it my slave." Are you a slave to your impulses, your body, your desires? Are you in control? And time again, we're taught that we should take control of these situations. You'll have to excuse me, allergies are really bad here in Texas right now. If your car is set outside, it's green. So I keep getting choked because I've got allergies going on, but that's okay. So if you take the time to do these things, and it starts with something very simple, very basic. Sit down with yourself first. Write out what you want life to look like. Then, with your family, start to develop how you want your family to look. Start to write out the same things for your family. We are so happy now that we are able to do whatever it is that you want to do. We're so happy now that, we're all healthy, or we don't have to worry about life events financially because we've prepared for these things. It suddenly changes the game. It suddenly changes who's in control of the game. Right now, most people are being controlled by society, by the game itself. And life really is kind of just a game. Money is really just kind of a game. And when you make it a game, it can be really fun. It becomes, let me see what we can actually accomplish, rather than, oh, this happened and I don't have control over it and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. Again, you're not going to control everything that happens to you, but you can absolutely control how you react to it and the behaviors that you do consistently on a regular basis. And so maybe something hits you and derails you, that first detour that we talked about. But if you have those goals as a family and as an individual, if you have those goals written down, you can go back to them and say, that's where we're going. And you stay focused on it, you make that small adjustment, you're able to get back on course. Again, I work with people in a lot of different situations. I mainly work with people around finances. And I'm ever amazed at how many people, I coach people on how to get out of debt. Because most people go into debt for consumer reasons. They go buy things because they think they have to have it. They spend money that they don't have. They go out to dinners and they put money, their dinner on a credit card because in that moment it feels good. What they don't think about and what they don't look at is the fact that if they don't pay that off right away, that dinner that costs them $100 or so ends up costing them thousands over the long run. Because they rack up the debt and they just keep making the minimum payment and they don't understand how to actually get control of their financial picture. They don't understand the basics and they don't have any goals. That's the biggest piece, is they fail to create goals for themselves. And I think it was in the last episode or the one before that, I talked about every dollar that you put away, think of it as a dollar that's buying your freedom, rather than, oh, I'm putting this away for some abstract idea called retirement. And here's why I say that. Because most people, when they look at retirement, they have some ideas about it, but then they also get hit with reality of life. They see somebody around them that's close to their age that passes away, and they go, oh, I don't want to delay my gratification, right? And so they abandon the idea of saving and building wealth. They abandon that idea so that they can go spend their money and they can get that shot of dopamine. Dopamine being the strongest drug in the world for humans. We love dopamine. And every time we buy something new, we get a little shot of dopamine. You get a new shirt, you get a new car, you get new something. It feels so good, In that moment, it feels so good. And pretty soon, you get used to that car. It doesn't give you that same dopamine release that you had before. It doesn't give you that same feeling. Or something breaks and now it costs you money. And now you're frustrated with it. And so what do most people do? Time to trade this piece of junk in. And so they go trade in a perfectly good car that's mechanical, that's going to break, that's going to cost money to maintain. They go trade it in and they roll negative equity into the next car. And they just keep doing this over and over and over and over again. And they never get ahead. And they stay frustrated. They don't understand why they're frustrated, because they're chasing happiness versus joy. And they're fulfilling their emotional desires in that moment rather than focusing on a goal that they might have. So again, your life is about compounding returns. And so as we launch this program to teach families how to do this and how to start building a strong family unit around their finances, that's the main focus, right? But that is actually the residual of doing a lot of other things correctly in life. And so we really want to teach families how to do this, how to become strong as a family unit. And this is born out of this idea that I have. If you look at most societies, most great societies over time, they tend to shift more socialistic over time. And socialism, we get this idea that socialism always leads to communism, that kind of stuff. Some situations it does. It doesn't mean that the United States is going to be turned into Venezuela. I don't think that's going to happen. But what a socialistic outcome does is it locks in class systems, in my opinion. And so if you look at a lot of countries that have implemented this and a lot of societies that have gone that direction, what you see is very defined class systems. And while we have a class system in the United States, you're still able to transcend your socioeconomic class. You're still able to start from nothing in this country and build into something amazing. And you can do that in some of these other countries, but not as easily. And I'm not saying that it's super easy in this one, but if you start as a family doing it, now you're compounding returns even faster because everybody's effort is all working towards the same things. And so now it becomes almost a certainty that you'll achieve success in that way. And when you're successful in that, think about the impact you can have on the world. If you're not stressed about your finances, if you're not worried about how you're going to pay those bills, if suddenly all of those things go away, you're able to then use your finances for good. You're able to use your time for good. You can go volunteer. And I'll tell you right now, when you spend your time, when you spend your wealth helping other people, the dopamine that you get from that is far greater than anything that you get when you buy something new. The fulfillment you get, because that's called joy versus happiness. I'm not sure that it's even a dopamine release. But it's like we've talked about in the past. When you go out and you go on an experience, when you go on a trip, interesting thing happens. When you retell the story of that trip, your brain actually releases the same chemicals that it released while you were there. And so you get to relive that every single time you tell it. When's the last time you told a story about buying a car and you got that same feeling that you did when you bought that car? No, usually the story goes something like this. Yeah, I got this car. I really like it, but man, let me tell you, I got to change the tires every, 3,000 miles because it goes through tires like nobody's business. Or it's, oil change is like $4,000 or something like that. So I use that example because it's just an easy one to point out. Because a lot of times people look at cars and stuff and they get what they want other people to be impressed with rather than what's practical. So again, when you stop trying to impress the world around you and you stop worrying about what other people think of you, you're not going to completely devoid yourself of all concern of what people think about you, because we care about what people think of us. But when you make your focus the goal of creating rather than consuming, now the fulfillment comes a lot more naturally. You're able to do things, you're able to see things in a different way than most people do. So those are the things that we're focused on. I'm really excited about this program. It'll be a subscription-based type program that you'll be able to get on our website, sign up for. We're going to have workbooks in there along with video tutorials that go through each stage with you. And it's going to be a process. And ultimately, we'll grow that out to where we do family retreats and stuff like that. So that's like a little preview as to what's to come. And I'm really excited about it. I hope this resonated with you. I hope you see some value in it. So until next time, have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.